Alrighty, welcome back. It's been a long time. Today I'm gonna show y'all how I go about modeling an airplane. Once again, uh, been a few years since I've done this, so I've got lots of different techniques and new new techniques of how I do things. So I'm gonna show y'all how I go about doing it. So I've just got a DXF diagram off the Boeing website just to do the 777 just for today's example. So I've downloaded these directly off Boeing's website under the CAD drawings um, section on their website. I'm just going to use those for today, but I'll show y'all how I sort of use real pictures as well to um, better define certain areas of like the windows, for example, or how the fuselage sort of reshapes itself towards the nose section as well as the tail section. So I've just thrown in a cylinder here to match the length of the 777. So I've thrown in a cylinder. That's what I start with. I use 63.7 meters. That's the length of the 200 LR. So we have that in. Now I'm going to switch to wireframe mode. You hit that using Z on your keyboard, and you can go to wireframe, or you can do Shift Z to switch between the two. So I'll go to wireframe. I'm going to go ahead and put the center of this cylinder where that nose starts, and that is how we're going to start this off. So it goes to the end of the tail and starts at the nose. I've got it oriented so that I have my x-axis, the red axis here, on. I can scale along the x-axis to widen things up or shrink things down, and then the y-axis for front to back. So it's got a few drawings. It's got the bottom or the top-down view, the rear, and the side view. So first things first, I'm gonna go ahead and right-click the object with the object selected and hit Auto Smooth. Now I'm still using Blender 3.4 just for Microsoft Flight Sim, but I set the shading angle to 60. Helps out in the long run. Now a couple other things you can do is we can go ahead and go to Google, and I'm gonna go ahead and search up 777 cross section. Now this is important because this is going to give us exactly how the fuselage is shaped, so we know how it's going to look the whole way down the fuselage. So what's a good indication of that? Maybe this. I like to find a good picture of what we're dealing with. So this looks like that's a cross section. This is 777 specific. So that's for the, I guess, the floor, the roof. But I'd like to get a kind of overall general. That looks like an old 200. I like to get a picture that represents from top to bottom, sort of like this. So very top to very bottom. That might be a triple, might be an 8.7. Not entirely sure. Just make sure you find the correct cross section when you look it up. So let's go ahead and just grab this one. Looks fairly accurate to what we want to see. In terms of the 777, it's very round, so it is a very round aircraft. I'm just going to save that to my downloads. And now I'm going to switch it so that we're at the front view from my downloads. I'm just going to drag that in and scale it so that it matches up with the cylinder. right about there, and you can see it's a perfect circle. So I'm just gonna go ahead and delete this picture because it's pretty useless. All right, so we've got a perfect circle for the aircraft for the cross section. You cannot always rely on pictures and drawings. So you want to make sure you have a good blueprint as a starting point, and then I reference real pictures based off of that. So I'm going to go ahead and change this again to 63.7 meters. And now that I have that, I am going to reposition our cylinder so that it matches up again. All right, so that's that. Again, drawings are not always accurate. So match it up with that is a key thing to do. So I'm going to go ahead and apply scale to all of these. Oh, it looks like I can't. Okay, that's fine. Anywho, so we have our cross section. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and reposition this now because this drawing is a little bit too high. All right, awesome. So we've got our front, side, and bottom or top down views. Great. Let's go ahead and start making some loop cuts. So we'll drag Control R to make your loop cut, and you can do either front to back, or you can do side, depending on where you put your mouse. I'm going to go ahead and put this one sort of near the front, kind of where this looks like a door might be on the airframe. All right, awesome. Okay, now that I have where the fuselage is consistent from front to back, so maybe we'll just say right around here for now. So this is your consistency throughout the cabin. You can see as we go aft of this loop I just made, that it starts to go up and the fuselage shape changes. So I like to set 2 loops where the fuselage remains constant throughout. Now I'm going to grab the front. I'm just going to drag that down until we get to the very tip of the nose. All right, now the 777 is a little interesting in the nose section because it has this kind of cutout where it goes straight up, but then it dips inwards a bit into the nose. And the reason for that is if you see here from the start of the nose, it kind of has this curvature to it to this point, and then from that point it goes right up into the window. So it's sort of a crease in the skin. So that's all good. Now I'm going to start going to look for some pictures. So I use AirTeam Images quite a bit. I also use Flickr a good amount. So I'm going to set Boeing, and we'll set the aircraft type to 777 200 LR, and it'll refresh, and there we go. So now we got some pictures. So I'm just going to drag, or I'm going to open up some pictures that I think are going to be helpful when modeling this. So let's see what looks like a good front view. There's a good one. I also like to find a picture that is taken from a long way back. That's a side view of the airplane, so that I have a pretty good reference to the shape of the aircraft from like a 2D standpoint. So there's nothing here quite yet, but I'm going to go ahead and grab one that's very far away. So I'm just looking, this one looks pretty far away. Maybe that'll do. That's not bad, but it's a little blurry. Little bit blurry. Now I know all 777s have the same profile, just they're different in length. So let's see, here's an Ethiopian. That one looks half decent. And let's see how that Ethiopian one is. Pretty good, but it's taken from a bit of an angle. So we're gonna scratch that and continue our search. I'll resume the video when I find a good picture here. Alright, so here's a good picture. The reason why I like this one is because it's taken almost directly from a side angle. You can see the engines both almost line up, the gear almost both line up. It was taken from a far ways away, so it's pretty close to being like a 2D sort of image, if that makes any sense. So back into Blender, I've downloaded that. I'm just gonna throw it in, and we'll make sure that it matches the height. So this is a 300. So I'm just gonna go ahead and rotate it slightly so that it matches on top, and scale it a little bit so that it matches on the bottom. All right, and then we'll drag that to the front, put it to the side a bit. So this should be pretty close to in line with our drawing. You can see that. Pretty close. So I'm going to keep that there. The 300 is longer. Keep that in mind. So we're just going to go ahead and model off of the nose of this 300. So I got to adjust this, the tip a little bit, the nose tip. Again, if I hide it, it almost matches with the windows. So I'm going to keep it. Okay, now back to what I was saying about this crease in the nose here, where it kind of angles. You can see it here in this picture. It's not as much of an angle, but it angles a little bit, and then it goes straight down. So what I'm going to do is make another cut, throw it right where that happens, and we're going to go from there. So back to, I got a good picture in here somewhere. There it is. Save this picture too. And we'll drag that one in. From the front, throw that picture in, put it to the rear. And now I'm going to scale it so that the fuselage lines up with our circle. A little bit less. A little bit less. Okay, so there we are. Pretty much in line with the center. Now this is at a slight angle to the right. As you can see, our circle doesn't match up quite right with the circle that we're trying to model off of. So I'm going to adjust it so that the center, you can see the center of the circle here. I'll adjust that so it's at the center of my object. Okay, the line in the middle, the little crease line there, is lined up with the center of our mesh. So grabbing this circle now, I'm going to scale it up so that it is the width of this circle. And we'll bring it down slightly. All right, so there we are. There we have it. Now it doesn't line up exactly with what we have here on our side view. So I might have to adjust this side view a bit, sliding it down just slightly. And we'll go from there. All right, so I'll just adjust it a little bit more. Maybe upscale it slightly. All right, so I'm pretty happy with that. What I'm now going to do is from the front, we're going to go ahead and change this circle because it's not a perfect circle, and we'll just adjust the width so that it matches with the creases on this nose section, this certain part of the nose section. Now there is going to be a point. You can see where it starts to angle forward. Not all airplanes have this, but it seems like the 777's got it. So that point is roughly right around here. Okay, so you can see how this circle is not a perfect circle anymore. So I'm just going to keep scaling these little individual points until it starts to round off nicely at the center. So I can drag that one down a bit, a little bit less. That looks pretty good. And the rest of it also looks pretty good. I'm just gonna scale it a little bit along the x-axis. And that looks good to me. Okay, so now we have that shape that we want for this section of the nose. Now, where's that point where it starts to go off? Right here, okay? You can see the angle is different. I'm going to grab all of those and keeping the same shape we have, I'm going to select where that point is that it starts to move. Just rotate it slightly inwards, and then I'm going to scale it along the y-axis. All right, and I'm using active element, so it's going to scale around this vertice. Okay, whatever you have selected, whichever vertice you have selected is where you're going to be rotating things around or scaling things around. Okay, so we'll keep that. I might have to scale it down a little bit on the z-axis and a little more this way. We're just lining things up nicely. A little bit more upscale on the z, and that looks pretty good to me. Okay, so now we've got that done. I'm going to go ahead and make another loop cut. This time it's going to be from the initial position, and we're going to go right to where the cockpit windows are going to start. Okay, I'll scale it so that we have it in line with our drawing from top to bottom. Now from the front, we might have a little variation in how this is shaped, but we can also reference the top view as well. So you can see the one we just made is in line with our diagram from the top. I'll select this loop again, and we'll drag it down so that it matches at the side profile. And you can see that it matches with the border of these cockpit windows here, which is what we want. That's where we're starting this cut, so it should line up nicely with the windows. Now, this one again isn't a perfect circle, so I'm just going to scale it along the x-axis just slightly until it looks like it's nice and pretty close to where these windows are going to start. Alright, so that looks pretty good there to me. Keep scaling individual sections of it. And the rest, what's also helpful is like the reflections. You can kind of see where or how this is going to be rounded out. So I like that. That looks good to me. Alright, so from here, I'm going to go ahead and make a little bit of a change. So I'm going to select active element again. And what we're doing now is just playing with some of these vertices until it lines up nicely. So I'm liking how this is looking. What I want to see a little bit better is the angle in this cockpit window. So from this vert to this vert, it's not exactly in line. So I like where this one starts because it's right at the corner of the window. This one, I want to get it more in line with that window, so I'm going to drag it up a little. And now I'm going to have to scale it in slightly so it matches our shape again. Okay, I'm going to do the same for these two vertices, up and a little bit inward, so that we keep that shape. All right, so now we've got that angle for the cockpit window. We've got this vertice, I want it a little bit lower in the middle of the window because these windows aren't entirely straight. So I want to see them a little bit they round out a tiny bit at the edges. I want it a little bit off. And then I want to set these at the top of the window. You can see that. And I'm going to drag those out so that it's just slightly rounded. You see the slight rounding happening between these three. Same on the other side. Now these ones are just free to do whatever I want to do with them. So I'm going to increase its scale a little bit. Okay, I like that. Still good from the top view. All right, that's all good. Now we can start to make some cuts in between where everything else is going to be. So here's our doors. You can see the doors. I'm going to go ahead and make a cut just ahead of the doors. And we'll start upscaling that along the Z-axis and along the X-axis. Okay, I'll make one more just after the doors along the X-axis and along the Z-axis. Okay, now these should be the same heights, so they're not the same heights. So I'll scale it a little bit down on the Z-axis. And there we go. All right. This is our basic, these are our basic dimensions. I'm just going to go ahead and delete the back face as well as the front face. So I'm getting this set up because I'm going to start subdividing this. So if I go to add modifier and subdivision surface, now you can see it's starting to round itself out a little nicer for me. But we will have to make some adjustments to the scaling, because now it's not lining up exactly how we want to see it. So I'm going to go ahead and select this this loop with the slight angle in it. I'm going to hit Shift E, and I'm going to drag that. You can see it's doing some stuff with the topology there, so I'm going to drag it all the way until it's creased 100%, so a one factor. Now, why am I doing that? Well, because I don't want this loop to ever change. That is a good reference point on how the rest of this nose cone is designed. So this mesh will never change after subdivision. If I go ahead and apply it right now, you can see it remains the same. So this is an edge crease, all right? It's creased there, so it can never change. That's good because on the airplane, this is how I want it to look, and that's how it's gonna stay. Now we can go into the rest of the nose and just make a cut. We'll increase the size of it. We'll just start shaping out the rest of the nose. I like to make one right close to the tip. Awesome. And we'll do one more sort of in the middle. Increase its size a little bit. Okay. Then from the top again, we just want to line it up with the shape of the nose, which it looks to be pretty well shaped. All right, so that is the nose, or the nose cone, I should say. Looks a little different from the diagram we have, but that's okay. Again, diagrams are never real. They don't work well in respect to the real airplane, so I'm going to leave it there. Now, we have a bit of distance between this crease that we made to for the nose cone shape to where the cockpit window starts. So I'll make another crease. I'll follow it down so that this point is going to be where that window starts. Okay. Select active element again. I'm going to select the very top vertice on this loop and drag it down to where that window is going to start. Okay, so there's the start of the window. I'll scale it along the x-axis so that we still have that nice rounded out profile for the bottom. Then from the top, we're going to go ahead and scale it properly. Okay, so that is our nose cone. Now I'm going to go ahead and just try and see what happens if we get rid of the edge creasing here. So you can see it makes hardly any difference. Okay, so that's good. I'm going to keep it that way. This is the loop we have, and this is what we're going to see when we apply our subdivision. So that's good. It's pretty much in the same spot. I'm going to go ahead and leave it like that. Okay, that way we can have a bit of roundingness where that edge crease was. The edge crease keeps that mesh nice and sharp, so to speak. If I get rid of that edge crease, now we continue that rounding out. Whereas before, if I crease it, you can see it just makes a sharp point. So I don't want that sharp point. I'm just going to leave it so it's nice and round. Okay. Now things get interesting. Because we have, these aren't rounded windows, they're flat windows. So what I want to see here is we want to follow the angle of these windows with this cut. So, got to keep in mind now that this is where our nose mesh starts to break off and become more flat at the top. Now, in this picture, if I just hide the mesh for a sec, this point on the nose here kind of goes up into this second set of windows at the back. So I want to see this mesh essentially up here. Okay, we're following the curve or the angle that this is at all the way up until it's in line with this window. Okay, so I'll select both sides, bring it up, we'll scale it along the x-axis until it's just below that corner of the window. Okay. All right. Now that we've done that, I'm gonna drag it along the y-axis until it meets that same point. So you can see it follows the same curving pattern all the way up to that back window. And from the top, it's also following that curve. From the front, it's also following that curve. Now we've got the rest of this top mesh to deal with. So I'm going to go active element, select that top vertice. And now I'm just going to go ahead and scale it along the y-axis and along the z-axis so that it matches up with the window shape. Okay, and from the top, what we now see is it looks a little off. I'm going to scale it along the x. Get rid of one thing at a time. Continue to scale it along the x. And that's good. Now, that should be pretty good there. Scale this guy along the y-axis. And this guy along the axis. So this is relatively where the windows are going to be. All right, it's not perfect just yet, but we'll get it to that point. Now, the 777 windows look like they kind of come down slightly at the bottom, and they go a little bit up on the angle at the top. So we want this to be consistent all the way through. So I'm going to go ahead and just grab these ones that kind of line the bottom of the window. We're still on active element. And I'm going to go ahead and scale this along the z-axis so that it's nice and flat. And maybe we'll just go ahead and quickly verify that that is indeed what is happening with the nose. So yeah, so you can see they go a little bit down. All reference another picture quick just to be sure. In fact, they almost look flat. All right, so back to Blender. We'll just make them so they're flat. Okay, so that's that. I'll do the same on this side. Make it nice and flat. All right, so that's what I want to see. Okay, now I'm gonna grab these vertices again, and this guy. Now here's something that I sometimes do if I want to get that perfectly flat line along the bottom, is I'll select the vertices that are in line with this. I'm gonna rotate it so that it goes along the x-axis. I'm gonna scale it along the y so that it's flat. All right, so now I have a flat line. Now I'll just rotate it again. And there we go. Now it matches the lining, that window. And you can see that you're now going to have that window shape. All right, what I'll do from here, because we're dealing with windows now, is I'm going to go ahead and delete the right half of this airplane. Delete vertices. And I'm going to add another modifier, and we'll do mirror modifier. Now you've got a pointy top. That's because subdivide is above mirror. So if I just drag down, now we don't have that pointy top anymore. All right, so now we're just dealing with the right side of the aircraft. Okay, you can see its shape starting to come along. This is what I wanted to see for the windows. You can see it ends where that window stops. Okay, and from the front, it looks like it's almost there, but it's not quite. I'm just going to keep scaling it along the Y until it's there, right at the end of the window. And from the top, I'll have to scale it on the Y-axis again. All right, and that's that. Okay, so maybe I'll have to make it a little smaller. All right, so that is our front window, bottom of it at least. Now we got this side window, so I want this to be a little bit curved because this window curves a little bit. And I want this one a little bit lower. All right. Now, I'm going to drag this one in a little bit on the X, as well as this one, to give us that curved shape. Now, you're saying, well, this mesh doesn't look good now because I've got this stuff way ahead of where this point breaks off at. So, what I am going to do, use the knife tool, start at the tip, and we're going to go straight down. Okay, now I'm going to get rid of these edges. This edge should go as well. And now we have a good mesh again. Okay, awesome. So, shape is coming along. You can start to see it. We're going to go ahead now and continue with this window shape. So I like what I'm seeing so far. The only thing that I don't entirely like is we need another vertex where this window starts. So I'm going to use my knife tool, come down until I hit a good point of where that window is going to start, and I'll match it with the next loop behind it. Using the knife tool again, I'm just adjusting things gradually here, so we'll do that. And we'll get rid of this edge. Okay. So there we have it. Now, there's a bit of an issue, and that is just that we need this vertex to go into this vertex. Because we want to keep quads consistent throughout most of the model. So we have a four vertices shape here. Okay, it's just like a rectangle. And we have a rectangle here as well. We want to keep that general shape throughout the entire thing. Drag that one in a bit so it matches the curve. Awesome. All right, so here is our kind of bottom section of these windows all in line. Okay, you can see the curvature of how it goes into the second window, and then it comes up on an angle. There. All right, that's all good. Now we have to deal with this top section. I'm going to go ahead and just use my knife tool, kind of use the angle of this window along to this one, goes a little bit downwards, and then it comes down to the front. Okay, so that's good there. Now we need a little bit of variation, so I'm just going to drag out until it matches with the front there. All right, so that's all looking good so far. Okay, this is where the window is going to start, and it's going to be a straight line all the way across. So I'm going to go ahead and just scale this along the z-axis. I'm going to rotate it up until it hits the top of that window. All right, awesome. Now it's not a straight line yet, so I'm going to rotate it until it meets a straight line along the x-axis here. Scale it along the y so that it's flat, and then just rotate it back. All right, now we want flat windows, so I'm kind of just looking at the bottom part that we made, and I want to make sure that it's lined up with the top part. So I'll keep rotating it until it's flat and flush with that. All right, so that'll do it right there. So you can see how this window is starting to take its shape. Awesome. Now, this guy looks like it needs to come in a bit. This guy needs to come forward slightly. So how we're going to do this is I'm just going to scale it along the y-axis a little bit. This one might need to scale along the y-axis a little more. So this is where things can get a little funky. I want this to be right where that window stops. But on my reference picture here, it's a little bit behind it. So I'm going to just drag this until it comes in line with the window from the side view, and I'm going to have to do the same to the top. Okay, so right there. Now that doesn't look entirely flat, so we'll make sure it's flat and fix it. Okay, awesome. Right on. Now this guy's got to come forward as well. So I'm just going to drag that in a little lower, and I'm actually going to grab this one with it. So I'll make sure that that's scaled good. Bring that in a bit. And then this one's going to have to come inwards. Do the same thing. Make sure it's flat still. Point it in the direction the window's going. Drag it along the x-axis. And there's our window. All right. Now again, not entirely flat. Make sure that it becomes flat, and then drag it back. And you can see it's nice and flush with the bottom section of the window. Okay, so here is our front window. All right, moving on. I may have to make another loop cut in here somewheres. So I'm going to go ahead and do that now. So I'm just making a cut right about there. And in order to keep my geometry nice, let me think about this. How are we going to do this? I want to see that's going to be a window. And then this stuff is all going to be windows. So I have 2 verts that I need to create up top here. This is where things get a little odd, because I'm going to go ahead and do, I'm just going to go straight up, make another one straight up. Now I want to see these 2 joined, so I'm just selecting these 2 vertices, hitting J. And this one I'm going to have to adjust it a bit, but I'm going to do it anyway. J. Okay. All right. Okay, so just going to make an adjustment so that I have some spacing between these. Go down and straight down again. And I'm going to get rid of this entire loop here. Now, this one, let me think about this. We're going to have to make another cut. This cut's going to go... Yep, I'm happy with that. Okay. All right, I made another loop cut there just to help us out a bit. I'm gonna go ahead and scale it along the y-axis so that it's nice and in line with everything else so far. All right. Fantastic. Now, we've got a bit of an issue with where this border is between these windows. So I'm gonna go ahead and just make a cut all the way up with the knife tool. I'm gonna readjust right here. Dissolve its edges. Awesome. Now I know what you're saying. You have a triangle here. That's all right for now, because I'm gonna go ahead and fix that. Fix that. We're gonna go ahead and just adjust this loop a little bit. Straight down. Get rid of these, and I'm gonna make another. Make another cut here, and another loop. Join those together. Make those faces into a quad. All right. So these are our windows. They're pretty much set up. I'm liking this so far. Maybe I'll fix that one more time. We'll leave it for now. All right, here's our windows so far. I'm liking what I'm seeing. That is still at the same point, which I like. These guys here should be in a relatively correct position. Might have to come out a little bit. And it shouldn't be quite as round. That looks good. That looks good. That looks good. Okay, this one can come out a little more, I think. Yeah, so these can come out a bit. That can come out a bit. That can come out a bit. Look at that. These two can go a little bit farther. So yeah, what I don't like here is how I did this. I'm gonna get rid of this entire loop. And we'll play with that so that it has a nice shape to it. All right, that's good. Now we've got a bit of a weird sort of shape going on here. So I'm going to go ahead and just scale these so that they're in a nice line with the rest of this curve. Okay, this one can come up slightly. Now the rest of it I'm pretty happy with. I do want to see this one come up a little bit more. And it's going to have to go a bit along this axis. All right, same with the top. Okay, so here's our flight deck windows. So far, I'm liking it. We're going to go ahead and adjust these. So just make it up a little bit higher so it reaches the top. And come down a little bit. Now I'm going to angle it forward so that, again, it's following the curve of the nose. Same with this one. Increase it. Tilt it forward slightly. Okay, awesome. And the rest should be good. We've got a nice curve going on. I'm liking this so far. Let's go ahead and just extend this one so it comes a little bit lower. This one can be a little bit higher. And this one can be also a little higher. This one a little higher. A little lower. So far so good. Add another cut in here, sort of where the nose gear starts. Drag it a little lower. Drag it a little higher. All right, so there we have it. That is our nose of the 777. Now, if I were to go ahead and apply subdivision right now, you can kind of see how this is going to start to shape out. I still don't really like it very much. So what we can do is grab the centerpiece here. We'll go up to the second one. And we're going to go ahead and edge crease that. Now we have crease in the nose. Now if I subdivide it again, see how that is working. Okay, and grab the top and the bottom. We want edge select. Right on, right on, right on. We'll go ahead and edge crease this as well. That should hold roughly its own. So this all looks pretty good. Just gonna go and make slight adjustments to the bottom here, just so it rounds out nicely. All right. Okay. Pretty happy with that. Now, there is some stuff we can fix and adjust, kind of like this part. I'm gonna bring it more forward on an angle. Hold that there. This might not have to be edge creased. Maybe it does actually. All right. Now I can go ahead and crease this one. And we're going to go ahead and crease. Might have to be adjusted a little bit too thick. Alright, now I'm going to merge these vertices out of the way. And same with these ones. Alright. That should come a little more out. That should come a little more out. Okay, fantastic. Apply the mirror and apply the subsurf. You can now see where your front window is. And that's perfectly flat on the bottom, on the top, in the middle. Okay, I'll get rid of that. So we're back to subsurf. Now it's just a matter of adjusting these last couple points. So we'll crease those as well. Should have another loop up here. This one can be a little bit shrunk. A little more forward. All right, try it out again. So now we have these two windows. And this one still needs something to help it out. So to help this guy out, we're going to go ahead and create another loop a little bit closer to it. And we're just going to adjust it along the Z-axis. And a little bit on the Y. This one needs to be extended a bit also on the Y. Yeah. Okay, cool. Now, something I often do is I'll add like little triangles in here. Create. Let's see if that worked. Oh, I have the mirror modifier still on. My bad. There we go. Okay, there's our mirror. Let's do that again. Just slightly along the Z. Okay. Do that, do that. Something I often do is I'll grab little triangles here that you get the curvature each of the mirror modifier on. A good example of it would be down here because this is a quad. If I do that, you can now see where that window is going to round out at. We want this to be a quad as well. I'm just going to adjust that slightly. There we go. Now it's a quad. And I'm going to have to make this one also into a quad as well. That shouldn't disrupt too much. Okay, awesome. So yeah, now I'm just making the rounding of the windows. So I'm going to do a bit. I'm going to make a triangle. Don't worry, we're going to get rid of all these afterwards. Another triangle. Do another triangle here. And another triangle at the top here. I go ahead and apply these all now. It didn't work on these ones. Works best on on corners, right? So that one's good. We can go to the front windows. Right here. Right here. And another there. Cut there. So it didn't like me on these two. Or these four. but it does like me right here. Okay, we have the rounding at the edges. I think why these ones didn't work is just because of the edge crease. Okay, I'm just going to go ahead and get rid of all of these, but for now, these are going to be your cockpit windows. So you can see if I apply the modifier, this one's rounded out. If I just do edge creasing for an edge extending off of the corner, now it's flattened. And you have your window shape. Now it looks a little ugly up here, but this is something you can go in and manually adjust. But for now, this is going to be good. So I'm liking this. Awesome. Here is our nose section of our 777. Essentially done. Pretty much done. So what you would do from this point is apply everything. You could go in and make your where these windows have their seams or separations from each other. So like this would be a good example of that. Yeah, make the cut right about there, and then this whole edge is now going to become a part of this edge. There's your window separator. This one's already done. So here's your windows. Now I'll just make another cut. Maybe not a full loop cut, but I'm going to make one that separates the front too. All right, awesome. I'm going to grab the whole model again. Mirror it one more time. And here are our windows without curves for the edges. They're going to be our cockpit windows. All right, I'll just give it a material. Make it black. There you have it. This is how to get your cockpit windows sort of in check. Obviously, this isn't perfect. I would spend a lot more time. I would spend hours and hours and hours perfecting this. But this is how you're going to make your cockpit windows for your airplane. Lots of imperfections still. So that's why I would recommend not applying your subsurfaces until everything is in order. So everything looks great and smooth from the outside. So I wouldn't even bother applying these until everything looks exactly how you want it to look. All right. So there you have it. If you guys want more of these videos, and if I have the time to do them, I will, but I don't have a whole lot of time in my hands. But if you want to see more stuff like this, just let me know, and I'll try to continue doing as much as I can to try to help you guys out a little bit. All right, that'll do it for today.